How's it going, everybody? My name is Cam White, and welcome back to your favorite weekly horoscope. What the fuck is going on in the universe for October 26th through November 1st of 2020? Thank you guys so much for being here, liking, sharing, commenting, and of course, subscribing. As you can see in my thumbnail, I wanted to express a feeling that was both concerning but both fun at the same time, because I think this week both sucks, but I think it's going to surprise us in a lot more ways than one. I think it's going to both be destabilizing, but I also think that things are going to start having a better tone to them. Not to say that things were bad before. I just think with this week things kind of peace out, and you'll see. And I mean, you'll see why. So let's just go ahead and go straight into it. Going into Monday, having that moon in Pisces, really there's nothing going on Monday, honestly. Like this, I just had to kind of come up with something to write here. Moon's in Pisces. It is going to be making a sextile to Uranus, but whatever. But I just did want to make the note that on Monday we are coming off the Mercury cazimi. So we have the moon, literally, it's like the Mercury cazimi, I think, goes exact, and then the moon ingresses into Pisces, makes that trine. Which I don't know if I talked enough about last week. I can never remember what exactly I talked about each week. But with that Mercury cazimi being so, like, it's Scorpio, right? Like, there's a lot of clarity. There's a lot of at least emotional clarity. It's a lot of it's kind of like it's kind of like a silent agreement almost. Like, I feel like that's how it is with like Scorpio, since it is like more, and especially too with the moon in Pisces, just those mute signs. It's very quiet. It's a quiet mutual agreement. And I think with the moon in Pisces trining that Mercury cazimi, being able to reflect on that, being able to hold space for that, being able to kind of go, okay, how does this look? How does this feel now that I sit with this? I think that just pours really into on Monday. The moon's going to sextile Uranus, so I mean, there's a little bit of juice to it. That's about as crazy as it's really going to get. But I do think on Monday, just for the most part, it's just the moon in Pisces. We're kind of just reflecting. We're feeling things out. We're vibing. I think Monday's going to be a good day to kind of just like it's kind of like, when you go through, like, it's kind of like when you color, it's like you do something mindless to get yourself in a state of mind that you can really think, that you can really reflect off stuff. I think that would be a good idea or a good thing to do on Monday. As we go into Tuesday, though, that's when we're going to be having the moon conjoin Neptune. Then it's going to be sextiling Jupiter and Saturn. And also on Tuesday, we have both Venus and Mercury ingress into Libra. So let me go ahead and show you the chart for that real quick. Oh, hold on. There we go. So this is Monday. We get into Tuesday. This is Tuesday later afternoon. We'll have the moon Neptune conjunction mostly in the later of the evening on Monday going into Tuesday, but sometime around there. You guys get it. I think with the moon conjoining Neptune and then immediately going to that sextile with Jupiter, sextile with Saturn, there's this, I think things in our head sound a lot better. And, with that moon conjoining Neptune, the ideas, our imagination, our creativity, I think it's all going to make a lot of sense up here. Not to say that is not going to make sense if we translate it onto paper or translate it into reality. However, I think with the moon and Pisces, it's like, everything sounds better in your head. Everything sounds better, before, like, in your head and your imagination before you actually lay it out. And I think as the moon is making that sextile to Jupiter, making that sextile to Saturn, there is this little bit of optimism, this encouragement, and there's Saturn here. There's this extra, seriousness to this. There's this like this can work. Yeah, this is real. Yeah, this is serious. This moon sextile, this is, I think, a good idea for, again, creativity, coming up with new ideas, kind of laying out a plan, laying out a structure together, or structuring something together. But I also think on Tuesday too, as we kind of sit with these ideas, as we sit with these thoughts, as we sit with these emotions, there is, something starts to get formulated. It's kind of like the creative process, Sometimes you hit a wall, sometimes you hit a block, and then sometimes it's like, you come up, you have like the certain idea, and then eventually things just kind of flow. And that's kind of how Tuesday looks. And what's interesting about Tuesday, though, is we have the little shift over. And mind you, this doesn't happen till late on Tuesday here. Let's actually get to the exact. So boom, literally, watch this. Mercury and Venus literally go into Virgo like for minutes within each other. Hold on, let's see. It's killing me. Come on, one of them move. Oh, wow. Oh, so there's Mercury. So Mercury goes in at 6:35 p.m. Also, you can probably hear a bunch of birds behind me. I don't know what all these birds are doing next to my house. There must be something like going on, like a big bird fight. But damn, look at that. 5 minutes later, literally, Mercury goes into Libra, then bam, Venus goes into Libra 5 minutes later. So I think this is a really big. I mean, for one, having a planet ingress into a new sign is a big deal. That's Venus, but I think also having a planet retrogress back into a sign is, I think, a big deal as well. That's Mercury, but this is Venus going into its home sign. And so when Mercury first retrograded, when it started its shadow phase, I should say, in Libra, Venus wasn't there. It was just Mercury was just squaring Saturn. It was just squaring Jupiter. Now Mercury's coming back into Libra, and guess who's home? Ricky, it's like Ricky Ricardo coming back to Lucy. Like, Lucy, I'm home. There is this comfortness there. Mercury is kind of like, Mercury has some support here. So I think on Tuesday, with Venus going to Libra, let's just cover that first. Venus is going into her home sign. Venus is eventually going to be squaring Saturn, squaring Jupiter, squaring Pluto. Sure, that's going to suck. But in the meantime, she's really not doing too much. She's kind of just vibing. And as Venus goes into Libra, the planet of connection, the planet of value, the planet of, fun, of indulgence, going into her home sign. This is an air sign where things become a little bit more intellectualized. I think this is going to be really good, I think, too, for the COVID stuff as far as social distancing goes. Like, I think you might actually see more people try to find ways to socialize and bring, things together. It's not going to be Venus and Gemini where it's like, la 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 la. It's like very close relationships, very it's a lot of harmony here. And I think that won't work out as we kind of go along, as Venus does square Saturn. However, Venus and Libra, we're wanting to make those connections. We're wanting to draw those bridges. We're seeing the value in sharing. We're seeing the value and the fun in harmonizing with other people, in socializing, really, in creating individual relationships. And yes, like, I don't like to be we shouldn't really be stereotyping zodiac signs, but like Libra is the relationship sign. It's the balance sign. It's all about, what's just, what's fair. And now that Mercury's going back into Libra, now Mercury just got off that Cazimi in Scorpio. It was very clear. It was very, sharp. Now it's back in Libra. Now it kind of has to delegate and kind of settle things out. Now it has to kind of, go over what wasn't right, go over what wasn't fair, go over what wasn't just. And now that Venus is there, there's a little bit more side of, I should say there's a little bit more tenderness, I think, here. There's a little bit more forgiveness. I think there's a little bit more of a pass. And I also think there's a little bit more of reconciliation. Mercury and Venus are now, Mercury stepping back into Libra, Venus is going into Libra. It's kind of like, all right, how can we settle things? How can we bring some balance? How can we bring some peace and some order into the situation? And just look at where Libra rules at in your chart. Where is there going to be some peace and order coming from that area? Or at least where are you going to be trying to create peace and order? Because I think that's going to be one of the bigger problems with this. We've already seen it with this Mercury transit, but with this Venus transit, although we are wanting to create this peace and create these connections and, reach over the other side, I do think that there's going to be a lot of struggle in attaining that goal. And if you do hit that goal, it will be extremely hard. So on Tuesday, there is this, it's kind of everywhere. There's this daydreaming aspect that's very constructive on how things can look and how things can be. And I think there's this hopeful attitude with Venus going into Libra. And I also think there's this more peaceful attitude with Mercury going into Libra. It's not as intense in Scorpio. But again, that might be a fleeting second, because then as we go into Wednesday is when things get a little bit more intense. And that's when the moon is going to be going into Aries and making that opposition to Venus. Now, of course, the moon in Aries, I'm not going to just go ahead and say like that's an intense transit, but I do think that the moon going into Aries and then immediately going opposite Venus. Let's actually do this real quick. Let's go in time. So I think as the moon goes into Aries and then immediately goes opposite Venus, and that's going to be in the early morning hours of Wednesday, I think there is this, now Venus is in Libra. It's not in Virgo. It's not in Venus in Virgo is really picky. Venus in Virgo is like, I kind of want this, but I know that doesn't really exist, and I'm trying to get things specifically this way, and not everything's up to par in my flavor and the taste that I, like. Venus in Libra is like, okay, I know what I want. Venus in Libra, I'm getting what I want. Venus in Libra, I understand what I want. I'm communicating that. I'm bringing that force. And I think as the moon goes into Aries and goes opposite Venus, there is this kind of, directness to what we want. There is this also, Venus and the moon, we're gonna count the moon as benefic here. I think the moon's benefic, but that's just me. It is a luminary though, so that's a whole nother discussion. But I think as the moon goes opposite Venus, there is this, direction and this pull towards, okay, like, what are we doing? What are we like emotionally getting ourselves invested into? What are we feeling out? What are we more emotionally charged up on? And where are we trying to bring balance to? I think as the moon's in Aries, that's going to be more of a time where we are more aggressive, where we are more energetic, where we are more impulsive. And as it goes opposite Venus, there's this kind of like, well, do we want to be impulsive? And if we're going to be impulsive, are we doing impulsive things? Are we impulsive about the things that we want, or are we being impulsive about the shit that we don't want? And so I think as we go into, what is this, Wednesday? There is this sort of, immediate action. Oh, this is what I want to go and do. Oh, this is how I feel because this is what I want. And with an opposition, this is technically not a good aspect. This is technically, the moon is, if they're opposing, they're on opposite sense. The moon in Aries goes, I want to do things this way. And Venus in Libra is like, what about both? And the moon in Aries is like, because I said so, because I only want things this way. But it's the moon in Venus, how bad can it be? It's kind of like, do you prefer, cake or do you prefer ice cream? Is it that bad of a argument or a dilemma? You know what I mean? They're both good things. So I think on Wednesday, however, I think this does change the attitude, because now that the moon's been in Aries a few times with that Mars retrograde, there's this irrationality, there's this anger, there's this impulsiveness. Now with Venus going into Libra, there's this, ease, there's this finesse, there's this charming attitude about all of this Aries stuff. And we're going to see more of that as Venus makes that Mars opposition too. But we're not there yet exactly. Anyway, we get into Thursday. That's when we're going to have that moon. We're going to have that moon, that moon. The moon's going to make a conjunction to Mars as it squares Jupiter. Now, let's go ahead and fast forward it here, go through the rest of Wednesday, and then we'll get to Tuesday or Thursday. There it is. We have that moon Mars conjunction pretty early in the morning before the afternoon. And when the moons conjoin Mars, now that Mars is retrograde, there's both this like energetic impulse. There can be this draining of energy. It's kind of like, 1 minute you're this way, 1 minute you're that way. But I also think with the moon conjoining Mars, it'll be easy to be frustrated regardless if you're doing too much or if you're not doing enough. I think with the moon conjoined Mars too, there is this aggressiveness. There is this like, it's kind of like just beating the dead horse. You know what I mean? Just going after it, even if it's not working. And I think also with the moon conjoined Mars, I think this is a great opportunity to redo what's not working. We have the energy and we have the inertia to make a change. The moon's also squaring Jupiter on Thursday as well. So I think there is the way that we're doing things actually doesn't make sense, and the way that we're wanting to go about things, like the logic doesn't work, the rationale doesn't work. It's not realistic. So I think on Thursday, instead of beating ourselves up, instead of going, oh, this is problematic, like, be patient for one. I think if there is anything that this fucking year has taught, I'm not going to speak for all of us, even though I really want to say for all of us, but for me, it's been about patience. But I do think that that's true for a lot of us. Like, this year has been about patience. Like, Mars has been retrograde, squaring all Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto. And here, I mean, like, I'm speaking strictly in American terms. Sorry, all the other countries that watch my videos, but like, there's been this whole, we don't know what the fuck's going on. We don't know when shit's going to change. There's this been slow down. It's been teaching us a lot of patience. And I think with the moon conjoining Mars, making that square to Jupiter, slow down, rework your plan, rework your system. your first draft isn't your final draft. Your second draft isn't your final draft. And I think the one thing that this year is really good at, has been making mistakes. This year has been really good for trying different things and not needing to have the best results. This has been a really good year of like, hey, if you fail, like that's okay. This is the perfect time to fail and get up and try again. Keep trying until something works. We're bound to get something to work. And in the astrology here, when Mars goes direct and we have everything going to Aquarius, I think a lot more things are going to start working. However, with the moon conjoining Mars, there's no point into beating a dead horse. It's like, if you've ever mowed a lawn before and you've tried to start that lawnmower and that lawnmower is not starting, you could sit there and try to pull it and go through more anger and rage than, all of your like lineage combined. Or you can, take a step back, maybe put on the choke, grease it up a little bit, figure out something, right? But I do not think that Thursday is going to be the most rough day. We've had some really rough days with moon conjoining Mars. We've had some really rough days with this Mars retrograde. We're starting to ease up now. Things are starting to, not be as harsh. But I do think that now with the sun in Scorpio and Mercury's now retrograde and coming up again to that square with Saturn, it's kind of like, everything's good until it's not. We're like, all right, we can kind of keep her cool. And then just like that one fucking thing just like snaps you over the edge. So be careful on Thursday. We go into Friday. Man, I'm blowing through this horoscope. I can't believe we're already talking about Friday. It's only 16 minutes. Anyway, we get to Friday. That's when it'll technically be Thursday night into Friday morning. That's when we'll be getting the moon making that square to Saturn before the moon enters Taurus. Then the moon enters Taurus, and then we have that full moon in Taurus conjoining Uranus on Friday night. So Friday's quite a show. Friday's quite a spectacle. So let's actually play it hour by hour here. So this is still Thursday morning. We have that moon conjoined Mars action going on. Then we get moon squaring Jupiter. Actually, that's going to be later on in the day. That's going to be at about 6 o'clock p.m. This is all Pacific time, by the way. Specific time. And then early Friday morning, bam, that's when we get that moon Saturn square. And moon in Aries square Saturn in Capricorn. Like this one's easy. This is a big stop sign. This is a big, I know I have a few of you guys that live in Las Vegas. If you live in Las Vegas or if you've been to Las Vegas, what's so funny about Las Vegas is the way that it's all fucking like designed is it's like a grid. Like LA, if you look above it from like a helicopter, it's all over the fucking place. Like, there's roads going here, there. In Vegas, it's all grid. Like it's straight up straight lines all the way up and down for miles. And what's so funny about Vegas is like if you go 5 miles, 10 miles above the speed limit on like Rainbow or Sahara and that light's green and you don't have any cars in front of you, you'll hit every green light all the way from the strip to like Summerlin. This moon in Aries squaring Saturn is like when you hit, just like you can hit all those lights green and a 20-minute drive turns into a 5-minute drive. A 20-minute drive can turn into a 40-minute drive because you can hit all of those fucking lights red too. And I think that's what this moon, this is not our first rodeo. This is not our first rodeo with this transit. This is the moon in Aries making that square to Saturn. We want to go. All of this horsepower, we got no room to gallop. All of this pressure of taking things on, we want to go forward. By the way, the moon's making an opposition to Mercury here, though, too. And so I think one thing to look at is maybe we should take a different road if we don't want to stop at every single stoplight. Maybe we should take a different trail. Maybe we should take a different look at how we're, going to our destination. With the moon opposite Mercury in Libra, there is this, I want you guys to look up on YouTube after this. I'll try to link it right here because I fucking love this video. It's so funny. It's just a rally car driver. And the guy who's reading the directions just gets like mad at him, and he's just like, Sammy, like, why can't you what does he say? Sammy, I don't remember what he says. I'll link it here so you guys can watch it because it's super funny if I remember to link it. It's like Sammy rally car race. Sammy, listen to my calls. Just look that up. And And I feel like with the moon in Aries opposite Mercury in Libra, it's a little bit of that situation. The situation like Mercury in Libra is like, hey, can you listen to my calls? Like, are you going to fucking listen to my directions, or are you just going to do whatever the fuck you want? And the guy does not even listen to the guy's directions. He's doing whatever you want. You can watch the car. Like, it's not going straight. He's going off on all of the wrong things. It's so moon square Saturn. It's like, no, I'm going to still do me. I'm still going to be stubborn about it. Even though Mercury in Libra is like, why are you not listening to my calls? Why are you not listening to my direction change for you? So, and this is also Mercury squaring Saturn too. So there's a lot of tension in this. There's a lot of conflict in this. There's a lot of disagreeing here. And I think as the moon goes opposite, I mean, first it's square Saturn, right? So it's like, stop. We're not going anywhere. Then it goes opposite Mercury because Mercury's at 27 here. So then as it makes that opposition to Mercury, it's kind of like, hey, instead of stopping right here and just going the same way you usually do, can you look up on Waze, or can you figure out a different way to get to your destination? Is there another way of seeing things? I think another way to look at it would be, for one, too, Mercury retrograde in Libra, is what you're doing even making sense? Moon in Aries opposite Libra, like, are you so invested into the emotion and so aggressive with it that, like, even if you was peace ever an option? That's almost how I would look at this. And so, on Friday morning, I think decisions will get made as far as, what are we doing? What's getting in our way? And how are we going to get around it? There's, we've had that Mercury Cazimi. We've already had the Mercury retrograde opposite Uranus. We've seen the problem. Mercury's Cazimi. We understood what we needed to do. We understood what we have to, what mindset we have to go under. Now with this Mercury moon opposition, it's like, now we have some decisions to kind of make. And they're not fun decisions, but they can be a lot easier if you just like let yourself make those decisions, if you let yourself make those calls. I think Friday is going to be more of a pivotal day. Now, as we keep scooting on over, then the moon moves into Taurus in the middle of the afternoon, in the evening, middle of the afternoon for, Pacific Coast people, and then for my East Coast people, it'll be later in the evening. As the moon goes into Taurus, this is where shit gets different, because this is where we get to the full moon in Taurus. Now, you guys should know this full moon in Taurus. This is the crack. This is shit's about to pop off. This is shit hitting the fan. I think with the moon in Aries making that opposition to Mercury squaring Saturn, there's like, yeah, I got a plan around that. I can kind of, figure out something around that. And then I think as the moon goes into Taurus, we're like, there's this anticipation. It's kind of like, think back pre-COVID when you could sit in a restaurant and at peace and not have to worry about everything else. But when it's like you order and it's been like 15 minutes since you've ordered, maybe 20 minutes, and your food is going to be coming at like any second, and you're waiting for it, and you just know it's going to come around the corner. That's kind of like this moon in Taurus being full. There's this anticipation. This is also, the moon being, this is the sun in Scorpio, right? What's underneath the surface? What are we attached to? Where are the cores? What are we sinking into, essentially? What is our foundation? And the moon in Taurus is like, this is where we can create stability. This is what we can create security in. The problem is it's conjoined Uranus, so there is no security or stability. In fact, there's instability, and it'll actually be, technically the full moon happens early Saturday morning, but in my opinion, building up onto Friday, I kind of put it on Friday for that reason, and technically too, as we move into Saturday, the moon's still going to be full, and this is actually when Mercury squares Saturn, but we'll get to that in a second. Anyway, we have this full moon, technically happens super early Saturday morning. And so as we get to Friday night going into Saturday, there's this anticipation that we, know what's going on, that we know how things are going to be. And I mean, look at this. The sun's literally 3 minutes off from an opposition to Uranus when it's full. Let's actually get to the exact minute. Like this is literally at the crack of dawn. Boom, right there. Yeah, this is literally at the crack of dawn, this full moon. I think as we wake up on Saturday, I'm talking like there's an electrifying, there is an exciting, there is a shocking liberation. Like there is a genuinely very surprising feeling I think that we'll have whether that's doing something random, whether that's, it's the moon in Taurus. Something that we're usually pretty stable in is now, it's now becoming destabilized. I think with the sun in Scorpio opposite Uranus, like, if you want the stable thing, it's kind of like if you don't know anything about cars and you're really insecure about your understanding of cars, but you're driving a car and that check engine light comes on, it's like, you can't just drive around with that check engine light. Like, at some point or another, you're going to have to take that car in. You're going to have to learn about what's wrong with that car. As the sun's opposite Uranus, if you want to keep that stability, something shocking is going to kind of reveal itself. And there's something destabilizing there where you kind of have to go, all right, like, it's time to roll up the sleeves. What dirty work do I have to get into in order to create this stability? I think last week or the week before, I made an analogy about digging a hole. And, before you call fucking like 511 or something like that, the number where, if you're going to cut gas lines or something like that, know where you're digging. And I think with this full moon, there's this kind of like, again, we thought we know what we're digging, and I think we're going to hit another line again. And I think that there's going to be some problems here. And I think though, like I said before, I think this is both shocking in a good way and I think shocking in a bad way. I think this is a great time to there's things that are stable in our lives that we don't want stable. We can be in very stable habits that we don't want to be in any longer. We can be really grounded into sort of an old ways of doing things that we know don't serve us, but we're too comfy in to get out of. And I think this full moon is a really good time to like just relinquish yourself of things that don't hold on any longer, especially things that you're trying to anew. I would look at what Taurus rules in your friendships. Like, let's say Taurus rules your 11th house and you're not the type of person that goes out or tries to meet people all that much. Like, do something innovative, do something liberating, do something different with your friendships. Like, don't just go about it the same way. Like, and you've probably been feeling pressed to do something new, to do something innovative, to update yourself essentially. And I think that's I like that word for Uranus. It's very like, if things don't work, they're going to crash. But updates make things really, really smooth. And as this full moon happens, there's something that you're going to know where you either need to jump ship, or if you weren't paying attention, that ship's going to sink. Like, if you weren't listening to the cues before. So, not to create a bunch of anxiety or anything like that. I think keep your mind open. I think keep your eyes open too. Most of you are probably already going to know what this is already about in your lives. This probably isn't going to be super surprising or shocking. I don't want to say super surprising or shocking. It's going to be surprising or shocking, but in the area of your life, it may not essentially be that surprising. However, then we have the Mercury square Uranus thing right as we get into Saturday, which this is what I really wanted to take the attention to, because it's like, yes, we have the moon Uranus thing, right? Destabilizing craziness, but what I think really takes the cake is this Mercury square Saturn thing all day long, because it's by the degree and it's not by the minute until Sunday. And now I put it the way I did this way for a reason, because as we go into Saturday, it's like, yeah, we literally wake up to that full moon and then it's done. It's over. It's like a Band-Aid. But that Mercury square Saturn's all day long, and all day long, it's if I feel for the victims of injustices in our justice system who apply for what is it when something goes to Supreme Court, the path it takes there, it has to go through like your county, and then it has to go through a bunch of circuit courts in order to get somewhere. I think Mercury squaring Saturn is like there's a lot of blocks getting in the way of you kind of receiving justice, or you receiving or communicating the things that you're wanting to communicate. It's definitely not easy. It's going to happen, but I think as Mercury square Saturn, it's just, I used to live in Las Vegas, and I was an astrologer there. But Las Vegas, and if anyone in the city of Las Vegas is watching this, or any public person, fuck the law that they have about psychic arts. They have a psychic arts law where you have to literally be a licensed practitioner to be an astrologer. Like, I had to buy a license, and no, there's no test or anything. I had to pay them $2,000 to get this fucking license. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. I think Nevada, and I think it's New York has a weird law about it too. but it's absolutely ridiculous. And I had to go through so much shit. I had to do an FBI background check in order to get a license to be an astrologer, which, don't get me wrong, it sounds really cool, but it was a lot of paperwork, and it was actually really hard, and it was really frustrating. It actually made my life living hell for a while because it just was not working. And I relate a lot to that too. This Mercury square Mars, it's like, in order to get something that you're wanting to get done, you have all this paperwork, you have all these rules, you have all these responsibilities to go through, and it takes a lot of time, and you don't always have the right paperwork, and the paperwork's all fucked up. Oh my God, I cannot tell you guys how many times I got the wrong paperwork, how many times I didn't do it the right way, and it was just, I kept having to do it over and over and over again. And it was funny. This happened during my 10th house year. Yes, it was my 10th house year, and Mercury was my time lord, and Mercury was retrograding in Virgo when I did all this. So of course it was a nightmare. With this Mercury square Saturn, it's like, sometimes you feel like you can't win. Or if you guys have ever bought a house, I've never bought a house, but it's literally the worst fucking process in the world. It takes so much energy. There's so much processing and shit you have to do. And I feel like with Mercury squaring Saturn all day, it's just the annoyance of it, the heaviness of it, and it's also, or if this might be more relatable too, if you guys have ever applied to a job and did a job interview, there's a bunch of bullshit that you gotta basically act fake in order to get the job, because that's just the way it's kind of constructed. It's like, tell us why you're fucking why you want to work at this place. It's like, because I need a fucking job, but you're not going to say that. You have to say some fancy smancy thing that makes you sound more intelligent, and that makes you sound more relatable, and that you actually care about the job, and that you care about the brand, and that you're loyal to the brand, which is so fucking weird that we have to do that. But anyway, that's like Mercury and Libra squaring Saturn and Capricorn. There's like, it's stupid the way that we have to get there. But the way that we have to get there is the way that we have to do things. And Mercury doesn't really have a choice right now. Mercury's in the superior position, so Mercury is going to get what it wants, but it's got to go through Saturn, and Saturn's going to put it through the ringer. So, and the moon's still full all day on Saturday. That's the other thing. There's this, it's kind of like, I can imagine winning the lottery, and it's like, okay, when you win the lottery, there's a lot of decisions to make. Oh, what do I do with the money? Where do I even get the money? Where am I going to put all the money? Who wants this? Or what's that? There's a lot of questions to be answered. Or it's kind of like, if you have a car break, if especially too, another more relatable thing than winning the lottery. It's like, if your car breaks down, there's been a lot of points in my life where my car broke down, and it's like, okay, fuck, how the fuck am I going to afford this? What am I going to do to change this? There's this unpredictability, there's this instability, this insecurity. When your car's broken down, like, that was, for me, I drove a lot for my work. That was my livelihood. If I needed my car to run. And with Mercury squaring Saturn, it's like, man, do I have the money to get a tow truck to bring it here? What if it's this much money? Like, oh man, I literally had to put so much money into my car, and I was not expecting it. I think that was Mars squaring Saturn for me. Was I had to put a bunch of money in my car that I didn't want to. But I think that's really what Saturday is kind of looking like. It's that stress. It's really like, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to figure this out when there are no clear answers or there are no clear roads? It's like in an interview, you don't know if you're going to get the job, but what are you going to say that's going to make you think that you're going to get the job? I don't know. This is astrology. This is for all of us to kind of experience. This is for all of us to kind of go through together and reflect on the way out. And I think on Saturday too, there's a lot of pressure. And I'm not going to be the type of person that's like, oh, relax, like during all the pressure. No, this is game time. Like, step up to the plate. Make sure you get enough sleep on Thursday night. Make sure you eat a big breakfast on Friday morning. Wear your best clothes, like, get ready. You're going to need your energy. You're going to need your wits. You're going to need your focus and your tact. The good news is we get to November 1st, which we get to November 1st. We still have Mercury squaring Saturn. So this is a thing that's going to continue. We're not going to get our decisions made on Saturday. We're not. But on Sunday, while we still have this pressure to answer these questions with Mercury squaring Saturn, Moon's trining Jupiter and Saturn. So there is this positivity to it. There is this hopefulness, at least. So let me fast forward here. One of the things I want to mention too is Mercury is squaring Saturn. Yeah, But Mercury's also getting ready to station direct. So like I said before, Mercury's going to get what it wants. Mercury, you are going to solve the problem. You are going to get out of the situation soon, relatively soon, within, I think, what Mercury stations that you get on election day. So on the 3rd. However, it just, until then, it's going to require a lot of patience. It's going to require a lot of mental sharpness, a lot of mental clarity, a lot of, you can't slip up just because, you're frustrated and you're angry. Doesn't mean you could pipe up and be mad at other people. They don't fucking deserve that shit. It's up to you to still keep your composure and still keep your cool and keep your tact in order to do the things that you've got to do. And as we go through Sunday with the moon shining Jupiter, I think there's this hopefulness to like, all right, maybe we can create some stability out of this. Okay, maybe I do have a plan together. Maybe I do have some money tucked away or something I could sell to fix this car thing. Maybe I do have a friend that still owes me money or whatever. Then as we get through the rest of Sunday, then that moon trines Saturn, and I think that's when, we start making some serious efforts. We start going, okay, I'm feeling more stable. I'm feeling more comfortable. I'm feeling more secure. Saturn and Capricorn, we have a lot of, we follow a lot of rules. We're very disciplined people. We're very responsible people at this point. And I think as the moon's in Taurus trining that responsibility that we've kept for so long is, going to help us, pay for our car problems that we're having right now. If we saved up a long time ago, that was the big thing with my car thing. I don't know if I wouldn't have had the money to fix my car if I didn't have an emergency I had an emergency fund just for this type of thing. And I had to spend like $1,500 on my fucking car. I spent actually $2,000 on my car because I got fucked over by a mechanic who basically lied to me, and then I had to go spend a whole bunch of other money to fix my car. So, but if it wasn't for that money I got to save up in the meantime, because I knew something like that was bound to fucking happen, knowing me, like I had the money for it, and like, thank fucking God I did, because that shit was way too crazy. So I think with the moon shining Saturn during this point, there's a lot of constructiveness. There's some help here by the time we get to the end of the week. And that's this week. That's really it. I mean, next week, Mercury goes direct, so the problems get solved. Mercury square Saturn again next week. Like, realistically, I mean, we also have like election week election day next week too. So I think there is a lot of anticipation, I think, with the election too. And I mentioned this in my November horoscope. Make sure you guys watch my November horoscope. There is, I think there's going to be a lot of delay with it. I mean, it's happening on a Mercury square Saturn day. Like, there's going to be some type of delay, and it's going to take some time. So don't expect anything to happen that day, probably. Or if it does, it's going to get rearranged and changed later on. But this week, there's a lot of craziness. There's a lot. That's why I did in my thumbnails. Like, I don't know if I want to even look at this. There's a lot. I like it. I don't. Next week's chiller though. Next week's just Mercury direct and the Mercury square Saturn. So it's more of the same shit, but now we get to move forward a little bit. Now we're not just playing catch up like we're doing with Mercury retrograde. So I think with that being said, I think that's all that I've got for you guys. So thank you for being here. I love and appreciate every single one of you guys. Thank you for liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing. Let me know in the comments what you think this week's going to be like. Let me know on Friday what the full moon ends up doing for you, if anything dramatic changes or happens. And with that being said, I'll go ahead and be seeing you guys next week.